Okay, so we're going to move on to a quick fire round, speed things up a little bit this evening. We're going to give you 1 minute to answer these questions. That's 1 minute, and we're going to go in reverse order from the random order that we had in the first round. So, girding our loins, remember you have 30 seconds. Use it wisely. And we'll start with Jill King. Ms. King, I'm sure the Golden Mile was an anticipated question here this evening. This isn't it. Frederick's a big city. And identify for us what areas outside of the Golden Mile and the historic district that you see as priorities for revitalization, and what's your platform for how best to go about that revitalization?
Downtown Frederick, north of 3rd Street, where Carmack J's is located, and many of our older residents who have been here for generations, there is a lack of places for them to meet their needs within a short distance. A lot of them are used to walking to get their groceries or to gather some goods, and we have 2 convenience stores on that end of town currently. There's a lot of empty spaces. There are signs with public notices where they are working on them, but they are also in the historic district where improving some of the dilapidation that's occurring has become increasingly difficult, and it's hard to find someone to occupy the buildings. It's important that we get someone in there to run businesses and to invigorate that end of town again for our people who have been here for generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody care to take their 30 seconds right off the bat? Katie Nash, 30 seconds.
Okay, so I would have to say I am passionate about the Golden Mile, but I'll let that go. I'll say East Street. I would see East Street as a tremendous area of opportunity. I drive on East Street every day to take my children to preschool, and I think that we have certainly a gem in East Street, beginning with, of course, the Knox-Kenning project, and then, of course, ending with the vacant Coca-Cola plant. I think that this is a perfect place to bring historic preservationists together with economic development specialists and see what we can do to sort of marry the two and certainly grow the area as it's intended to for economic development.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Very wise. We'll next go to Dave Schmidt at the end. Unlike the Sheriff's Office, which assertively enforces the 287G program, the Frederick Police Department operates a different approach, seeking, as they state, to build trust in the community. Do you support the police department's values here, or would you like to see them adopt a stronger policy?
100%. I absolutely approve of the way the police department deals with the immigration issue, because it's not an issue here in the city. I think most important when we talk about police, now I'm not a police officer, but I think most important when we talk about community policing is we have to talk about our citizens and our residents have to be comfortable in their communication with our police department. It can't be an issue of a federal or even a state, and we can have that debate on whether or not we should be having this, the immigration issue, even on a county level, but specifically on a city level. I approve the way that they're going to business. They want to be there for our residents. They want to make sure that no matter what happens, that they're there as a protectorate of those people, not there to say, okay, I'm here to protect you, but I'm going to check your immigration status.
Very good. Anybody else care to speak to that question? All right, moving on to question number 3. Moving down the table to Daniel Cowell. And if you're anticipating a Golden Mile question, this is it. Residents were split over having a 3rd Walmart come to Frederick in place of the Frederick Town Mall. Like it or not, the big box store ignited a debate over the future of the economically troubled Golden Mile. What does that future look like from your perspective? How should we restart the Golden Mile's economic engine?
Well, I 100% supported the current board for voting to have that code changed. I don't believe in government getting involved with that type of business. It's capitalism at its finest. There's a couple businesses that are going to have to probably change their business model to compete with Walmart, but the entire area is going to be redeveloped based on the plan that the designers and the architects provided during those meetings. I think that it's going to be a great opportunity. If you're a business owner there now, stay there. If you have the resources and you want to open a business, I would recommend, that's probably going to be a very strong part of the city business and tax means of our city going forward. But as far as the Walmart and overall, I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to be good for everybody over there. It's going to bring more policing over there. People are going to feel safe. Businesses are going to be doing very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else care to take 30 seconds? Okay, we have Mr.
Interconnectivity. Interconnectivity, that's the most important thing at 40. The problem is when I drive over there, is you can't go, you have to go in and out, in and out, in and out. That's what's preventing us from really making it a boon over there. And the other piece is connecting it to the city itself. There absolutely has to be some kind of mixed-use path because it's something that we need to spend money on. I know we're all Republicans here, and we believe that the government should be as small and as efficient as possible, but we need to spend money on connecting the two. There needs to be a way for me to get from this side of Frederick, or this side of 15 to the other side of 15.
Very good. Anyone else? Mr. Duke.
I used to serve on the board of NAC8, and I was pleased to be appointed to the inaugural board of the Golden Mile Alliance. So I've sat through a lot of presentations about what the Golden Mile can look like. When I moved up to Frederick in 2005, my dog and I moved into Overlook Manor. So I've seen the Golden Mile over the past 7-8 years, and I grew up in Howard County, so we came up here all the time. So there's so much potential out there. We need to find, and we're identifying through the Golden Mile Alliance, the uniqueness of the Golden Mile. It's the gateway to Frederick. Anyone coming from Myersville or Middletown down alternate 40 is going to come through the Golden Mile. So the Walmart, while not my first choice, is certainly something, a step in the right direction. Hopefully someday we'll be able to get ourselves a Trader Joe's out on the West End.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to our next question. This one is going to Mr. Dacey. Mr. Dacey, Frederick, as any other municipality in Maryland and beyond, is in fierce competition to bring well-paying jobs to the area. What sectors of industry should we welcome to the city to help ensure its economy is sustainable into the future, which also raises the question of what sectors of industry we should not bring here?
Well, I don't think we should be closing off potential employers. I wouldn't want to shut the door on any particular industry to the city. I mean, I think that's a huge issue in the city, is making sure we get high-quality employers. One of the things that I've talked about through my campaign is actually making Frederick part of the conversation for a federal government agency. I think we now have the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee that's a Marylander, and if you may read the Washington Post and realize that the FBI headquarters was looking for a place to locate. Now, they were looking in Virginia, Northern Virginia. The primary competition was Northern Virginia, Prince George's County. I think it's a shame that Frederick City was not part of that conversation. I do think that we need to start making Frederick part of the conversation for the federal government as the federal government expands. Gaithersburg has NIST. Northern Virginia is cleaning up in the defense industry. And I really think that Frederick is poised to be able to compete with those municipalities and those jurisdictions in order to get some of those high-quality jobs. Those are good jobs. They're federal jobs, and I think that's an underutilized sector for Frederick, and I'd like to try and exploit that. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anybody else care to speak to that question? Bearing in mind, we only have 3 questions left. 3 questions left in this round.
Period. It's a private business. They make the decisions of where and when they want to build and how they want to come here. What I do believe is that if there could be one down here, the city does need to support it with, again, the surrounding environment. You just can't have an isolated hotel and a convention center, or conference center, or whatever, without all the supporting businesses that those folks want to go to. So we need to encourage wherever the site is chosen to place that business, should it decide to come here, that we as the city prepare the neighborhood around it so that when the people come here, they can continue to experience what we all experience about this great city of ours. And it is a great city. As far as location goes of it, I personally believe it needs to be closer to 70 towards the end of East Street, which can be incorporated into downtown if we have circulator buses or trams or even those old things called streetcars.
And who would like to take those? Mr. Dacey, 30 seconds.
The hotel's been something that's been talked about for as long as I can remember in Frederick. I think hotel is something that's certainly missing from the downtown. It would bring a tremendous boost to the businesses down there. Frederick is missing out on small regional conferences. They're missing out on all that economic activity associated with that. I think the city could play a role in helping to secure a hotel. I wouldn't support the taxpayers financing a hotel like in Baltimore, but I think there's some creative type financing like tax increment financing that we could work with a developer to get the hotel done. Hopefully in the next 4 years, get the hotel done. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right, let's move on to another question. This one goes to Mr. Duke. What's your level of support for publicly owned businesses in the city? The Weinberg, the golf course, the 2 swimming pools, the stadium. And if you could vote to privatize any, is that an option you consider? And which of those city facilities would be off the table if so?
I would say the Weinberg, first and foremost, would absolutely be off the table. And as a Republican and free marketer, I don't believe the city should be investing in businesses, but this is not a discussion of whether we should invest in a hotel. For example, the Weinberg is something we've been investing in for a while, and it's a jewel of Frederick. Are there ways we could work it? Absolutely. We can talk about long-term leases with a company that might be. There's a lot that we can discuss, but as for selling the Weinberg, absolutely not. For the airport, for example, that's something that is bringing, it's going to be a great benefit, has been a great benefit to the city of Frederick. Now, to the golf course. Well, the first thing I would do with the golf course, I understand the aldermen get free passes to go play golf at the golf course. I would take those away, and that's going to save us, what, a few $100s a year? But for the golf course, it's something that I might look at selling. I would look at it. It's on the table. But the thing about all of these, we're talking about all of these things that are so unique to Frederick. You can't find the Weinberg Center anywhere else. I talk to people, they come downtown. I bring a lot of people here from around the state, around the country. I've even got a good friend coming in from India, and she said, you know, I've heard about the Weinberg Center. I said, really? How did you hear about the Weinberg Center? She says, it's famous. Well, yes, it is. So for the Weinberg, no. For the golf course, I'd certainly be willing to consider it. I think when we start taking some options off the table, we don't think outside the box, you know, nothing good can come.
Very good. Would anybody care to speak to that question? One question left. But I hope it's a good one. All right. Let's move on to the final question for this. Final question for this round, which will go to Katie Nash. She's way ahead of things, more so than I am. The question of raising revenue from selling signage around Harry Grove Stadium sparks some debate and maybe even some controversy. But it could raise $250,000 a year, with the $87,000 for the city and the rest going to the Keys. What do you think of this method of revenue generation in general? And is that a fair split?
I think in general, I thought it was great that we were thinking outside the box. I thought it was great that we were looking at ways to use existing assets that we own as a city and raising money to sort of help offset the cost of things. I thought that was all good. For example, the land that we own around the FAA, or I always say the FAA land that we own around the airport. We have a $137 operating budget, and we pay $1.1 in debt service each year for that land. So, you know, can we look at ways to earn revenue? Can we put a solar farm there? I don't know, and I think it's worth having the discussion. Certainly Hargett Farm sort of sparks all kinds of ideas, and I think that the more ideas that we have and the more ideas that we talk about from all sort of walks of life and sides of the aisle certainly are good things. So when the Harry Grove discussion came up, I was excited because I thought, hey, you know, this is something that we could do and we could raise some revenue. I wouldn't say, you know, at this moment that everything has been sort of hammered out, and you've sort of alluded to when you discussed the split. I think in the history of the Keys, we've sort of taken a, you know, kind of an approach that maybe I wouldn't support, and that is that, you know, the Keys sort of dictate to the city, and I think that we could sort of reverse things and have the city be a little bit more strong in our positioning. But, you know, it's easy to say that, and I haven't sat in the chair, so I think it was great that they took an innovative approach and they looked at, you know, raising revenue from something that we currently own, and I support sort of future measures to the same.
Thank you very much. Anybody care to use their 30 seconds? Thumbs firmly on hats. Thank you. Right, well, that brings to the end the interrogation rounds. I'm sure that you think I've missed some things. So as we wrap up, I would invite you to give your closing statements of 1 minute. And we're going to go in reverse order. So let's take that minute, starting with Dave Schmidt.
So this community's been incredible to grow up in, and I got to tell you, it's really important to me to protect this treasure that I see here in Frederick. You know, our votes next month, November, are going to decide who's going to be the steward of the city. And if I'm elected, I will do everything I can to represent each one of you, and I'll be the most accessible official you can imagine. I go back to that table, find somebody in an orange shirt, ask them for my cell number, they'll give it to you. I'm serious. So, now the question that I'm going to take to the polls is, who's going to work hard and going to make the right decisions for the city? I believe that I'm that person, and I would be honored if you also made the decision that I was that person. So again, I'm Dave Schmidt, and I'm asking for your vote September 10th.
Thank you very much. Katie Nash.
Well, thank you very much for your attendance tonight, and thank you for listening to all of us. You've kind of got an easy job this go around because you've got 7 of us and you have to narrow it down to 5. So, as you look at the 5 people who you think would make a good sort of board to make decisions for you and your family, I just urge you to consider me, Katie Nash. And why is that? I came here to go to Hood College. I wasn't lucky enough to be born here. I came here. I decided to stay, decided to raise a family here. I'm passionate about this community. I have 2 small children, and I take care of my 87-year-old grandfather. And through our community involvement, we've certainly learned a lot. One of the things that we've learned is that we can do better with our spending. We can prioritize to better meet our community needs. What do I mean by that? In the city of Frederick, we don't have a year-round homeless shelter. I won't pretend that I got into this race as an advocate for the homeless, but through my research and learning how our budgetary decisions are made, I learned this is shameful. We should do this. It wouldn't cost that much money, and as a city, it's something that we're obligated to do. It's simple to me. So I certainly, as you look for a candidate, look for who's passionate, whose passion translates into action, and who's willing to sort of do the research and learn and take that learning into better policies for our city.
Thank you very much. Jill King.
First, I want to tell everybody that I did a great job this evening, that I agree with many of the comments. There's some disagreements with some, but we can move past that and get along. One thing I have learned, growing up in Frederick and being from multiple generations, my great-grandparents owned a tourist home on North Market Street in the 40s and 50s. My grandparents had the last working farm in Frederick City. Moving forward, we keep trying to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes it's fine the way it is. Sometimes we just have to go with the flow and see where it takes us. And sometimes if we look at our history, it will bring us back to where we are today, and it can become a solution once again. My plan, if I'm elected, is to make our government more efficient through process efficiency model, Lean Six Sigma training that I've had, and to help find jobs and keep other families together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alan Imhoff.
Okay. First off, I want to thank you all for coming again this evening. Out of 37,000 registered voters in the city, you're special. Some of you have been here both nights, so thank you for being engaged. I've had the honor to represent this city 5 years as a planning commissioner, 4 years as an alderman, and for the last 4 years I've been representing the city in a number of capacities, one of which is I work with the Washington Area Council of Governments on their regional planning for the future, which includes Frederick. I've also been working with the Maryland Military Installation Council with the state in how to handle the changes in the military around here. And lastly, I work on the Workforce Development Board for the county. So I've been intricately involved in this area, and I've had the honor to represent you in those capacities, and it's been fun.
Thank you very much. Hayden Duke.
I wanted to stand out here in front of you because I don't believe anything should stand between you and a member of the Board of Aldermen. My name is Hayden Duke. I'm a man who loves this city. I've taught immigrants in Centro Hispano, chaired the Human Relations Commission, served on the boards of the NACs. I can promise you this, I will serve you with passion and energy and integrity. You will always be able to find me any questions you have. I may not always get it right and we may not always agree, but I promise you that I will work harder than any alderman has for you. I hope you consider voting for me on September 10th. Thank you.
Well, that was a surprise. All right, Philip Dacey.
Thank you for coming tonight. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I hope you learned a little bit about each one of us. The role of the alderman, as I see it, is to bring people together to accomplish a vision for Frederick City. The role of the alderman is a little bit different than the mayor. You have to be able to build a coalition and build a consensus behind your ideas. People aren't always going to agree with you, but that leadership component is essential for the alderman, and being able to work with others is essential. I think it's easy to get a little bit lost in the weeds. You've probably heard dozens of questions tonight, some of which you may not have known about. There's a lot of little issues in the city. I think it's important to keep your eye on the ball and focus on the core things of what a city should do. Roads, infrastructure, public safety, number 2, and number 3, quality of life issues, which would be parks and culture and art. And I think at some level it boils down to who do you trust? Who among us do you trust? At some level, I've been through a bunch of these forums now, and at some level we all start sounding alike. We start saying the same things, and it's hard to differentiate between us on policy because some of these are so nuanced. So at some level, I'm asking for your trust, and I'm asking for your vote on September 10th if you're Republican, or in November if you're a Democrat. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Daniel Cow.
I'm not a politician. I'm getting involved because I had to realign my fiscal house with the birth of my son. I want to make sure that we can realign the fiscal house for the city. We need to be good stewards of your tax money. We need to make certain that we grow responsibly. I'm a lifelong resident. I have many friendships locally, at business level, and at the one-on-one level. It took me 6 months to get approved through my bank to actually campaign. There's a thorough background to make sure that A, I'm not going to have a conflict of interest, and B, that I'm going to be a good steward for my bank and for the city. That being said, I can guarantee you 100% ethics. I can be a hard worker. I am a hard worker growing up on a farm, and I'll do that for the city residents. My name is Daniel Cowell, no relationship to Simon Cowell. Please vote for me on September 10th and November 5th. Thank you.